Hey everybody, welcome back to the Verdigris Table, another episode of D20 Questions with Bill from Dungeons and Drams. What's up, man?
Hey,
Cheers. How's it going?
hey Ryan, nice to meet you and nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Tell the fine folks at home where they can find you on the internet and what you're up to. I'm sure there's been some inferences already if they don't know you.
Sure. So as you could tell, whiskey is kind of a thing for me. So I've got a couple of places on the internet actually. I've been on YouTube for about 10 years running a different channel called the Whiskey Dictionary, where that's all about whiskey. It's info, it's reviews, it's buying guides, all that kind of stuff. And then a few years ago, I decided to start another channel called Dungeons and Drams, where I would play D&D with some of the other, we call ourselves whiskey tubers, right? So I got a group of four, and we actually ran a campaign on this channel. I have always wanted to play D&D, so it was a good enough excuse to not only play but also, drink some whiskey with people I liked, and that made the games a lot more interesting. I'm eager. Actually, there's a thing that I'm eager to tell, and I don't think there'll be a better segue. So one of the rules that we introduced in our campaign was called risky whiskey, and the idea is, so obviously we all know D&D, if you get advantage on random things. So if you roll really terrible, think of it like the lucky feat, right? If you decide to finish whatever is in your glass, you can re-roll your dice, but you got to use whatever it is. You don't get the best. You just have to use your new roll. And that was such a fun thing to introduce to the game, but only once per night.
Okay, yeah, there's a limit to it. That's
There was a
that's
limit.
cool. That's cool. I like house rule. I like dumb house rules like that, or
Yeah.
like house party rules. Like, the dice touches the floor, you got to take it. You got to crawl under the couch
Ooh,
and
I
see what
like
it
that.
says, or whatever it is. Uh,
Crawling under the couch just for a one, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. So I stopped drinking. It's been a while,
Mhm.
and every occasionally I'll drink. But like early on, I would always drink because I was uncomfortable,
Mhm.
basically. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this will help me with improv comedy, and it does for an hour or two. And then I was like, oh, this is also making me worse at math and emotional control.
For sure. Well, I learned pretty early on the whiskey channel that I've got a solid hour in me if I'm drinking fairly heavily, which on a whiskey based live stream, that's the goal.
It
But
feels
for
inevitable. Like,
yeah, I had to stop live streaming after a while because it would usually make for a rough next day. But the D&D thing, I would be talking so much because I'm DMing, that I would only really drink if it was like a pause, like if they're all talking about something and I'm just standing there like, what do I do with my hands? That is a dangerous situation. So there's been a couple of the campaign episodes that towards the end it was like confusing different voices for different NPCs, and it's like
exactly.
suddenly I've got the Scottish sounding tiefling for whatever reason. So
It all starts to blend together.
right.
There's some I'm trying to figure. There's like Devil's Bargain, Devil's Cut. There's maybe
Oh
there's
yeah.
something there. I don't
So
know.
there, Devil's Cut was a Jim Beam release, and that was one, not one of my favorites, but it was. I've actually got a bottle of it right over there. So
But isn't it like I don't know if Jim Beam made up the story, but it's like
kinda.
the
So
kind
the
like there's like the Angel's
yeah,
Cut like is the evaporate, and the Devil's Cut is what like the wood holds on to.
exactly. That's what they were going with. So the whole idea is you got Angel's Envy, which is the evaporation that happens year over year of what's in the barrel. So the longer that so like part of the reason that really old whiskeys cost a lot of money is not only because you're essentially paying rent for the barrel to hang out in a warehouse for years, but also that barrel will have less liquid in it, so they can't make as many bottles. But then you have Devil's Cut, which is excuse me, they were trying to get some of the whiskey back out of the wood, which is like a whole nother process that we could go into if you care. But that was what they were trying to get going. But honestly, it just tasted way over oaked, and it was a little boring, but also not very good for me personally. If you liked it, awesome. But for me, it was a little too much oak.
I liked it on like a metaphorical level. I mean, I'm not a huge
Right.
whiskey guy.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but I'm not the aficionado, let's say. I know like, oh, this tastes good and this tastes cheap.
That's
And I know I
about all
like
you
the
need.
good stuff, and that's the problem.
Yes. That's definitely my problem as well.
But yeah, you turn it into a YouTube channel, and
Absolutely. Oh,
they
somebody's got to pay for it.
now it's a write-off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to pour one out. I think you already did.
Of course I did. Got to loosen up for the stream, right?
Let's get into the questions. Roll a d20 for me, and let's start talking some D&Ds.
Will do. 18, not bad.
18.
I watched the one with Wally DM earlier today, and I saw he had such a hard time rolling over 10. I was a little worried I was going to roll a 1 on the first, but
It's
18.
been very insightful. Everyone has their like luck is real. I'm just gonna put it there because
sure.
it's not the dice. I've seen it at my tables. It's like folkloric. Like I have a few people who are like coolers who are like can't roll over tens, and like I have a buddy who like we thought he was cheating for a while. Like because he's like 18,
20,
19,
20.
17, 20,
Yeah.
18, 17, 20. Like it's like the Mr. Glass theory. Like there has to be the opposite out somewhere. But yeah, there's a lot of folks who can't roll over like a 5 for the first 5.
They're called DMs.
They're called DMs. We're heels at the end of the day.
Right.
This might be actually insightful when whiskey comes into play as well. What is your top tip for managing a table of players? Like
Ooh.
balancing spotlight moments, yada yada yada.
Okay.
Sober or otherwise.
No, this is really good actually, because I mean, you kind of bring up a good point. When people drink, they're kind of like their inner person a lot of times will come out, and some of those people are very boisterous. Some of them are maybe a little shy or whatever, and then suddenly they're loud. Something that has worked for me is, I mean, first off, you got if it's really too much, obviously the talk to somebody after the game, right? But during the game, I actually really like what the dungeon dudes do, where if people start getting a little too much, you have them roll like a d6, and based off that whole system, maybe something happens. There's nothing that's going to put a stop to a little bit too much, than like a monster kind of coming out of nowhere. You might as well put that energy into something good. So that's definitely something I have done, but usually I just let them go because why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let people cook for a while, but how do you, if somebody's getting loose or not,
Like
whatever,
a little too much? Yeah.
If someone's out front for a long time, how, like, not even like how do you rein them in, but like how
Yeah.
do you pull somebody else in? Because as
Okay.
you're saying, especially with drink, like maybe someone's opening up and someone else is like shutting down, is like more passive.
So I call people out specifically. Actually, this is something I learned way before I ever played D&D. I used to, this is a total non sequitur. I used to run a meetup group I called it Chaos, which Chaos stood for Camping, Hiking, Adventure, and Outdoor Sports.
Oh, I hike
right?
the
Perfect.
AT, you're talking to me. Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. Yeah. So I used to run this group, and it was like a couple thousand members, and we would run backpacking trips and everything. And what happened is you'd always get a bunch of strangers 8 miles away from anybody else and camping out overnight, and you'd get a lot of really shy people. And what I found was great is calling on people specifically. So if people are, somebody's being really loud and somebody's being really quiet, like to your question, I'll just call on that person. I'll be like, how is your character feeling? Or like, what are you doing during this whole thing? Like, he's over here dancing on a table for whatever reason. What are you doing? And then I'll try to make it about them. Like if they're like, oh, well, I'm over, sitting at the bar, I'll be like, okay, roll perception for me and see if maybe they can see the next big event going on before anybody else, because the idiot's dancing on the table. So.
Roll to reward to see how this person thinks about this idiot dancing on the table.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You notice the town guards coming in to arrest your buddy. What are you going to do about it?
I love it. Okay, cool. Give me another D20.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's a 1.
You were talking shit about Wally.
Oh,
I felt it coming.
To a 1. Awesome.
Wally DM, everybody, if you don't know him, great people, check him out. First on my channel, please, and then on his. So there's no like good or bad here, but there's definitely a tonal shift from the top to the bottom of the spectrum. So what aspect of running the game are you currently focused on? Which is a polite way of asking what do you have room to improve on?
The thing that I found that I really need to work on is I have trouble making things feel really magical. And when you're playing a high fantasy game, it's really easy to just be like, oh, well, you're in a tavern. But it's like, well, magic exists and this person's run this bar for 20 years. Like they're gonna pay for some fun little stuff like floating candles or like something even now that's like the best I could come up with off the top of my head, right? Like there should be cooler stuff. You're in a magical world. That's something I could really, really use some work on. So
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. There is this like tension within like D&D specifically of like I like early levels. I like that like kind of
same.
grittier, low fantasy, Lord of the Rings style. But like in game time, it takes you about 3 weeks and you're level 17.
Right.
So it's like
Exactly.
where are all the other people cranking out all these, even like a third level spells changing the world. So
Right. Like
where is all? And then okay, you can go to like Eberron. There's some of that, but it's funny how sparse those details often are in published material
yeah, for sure.
too.
And I almost wonder if that's part of why I have trouble with this because if I'm reading like a module or something, unless people are like in hell or the abyss or specifically the abyss, like that feels like a cool place.
Mhm.
And just all of the random levels of hell as well. Like there's so much lore there. Um, very magical, but like just a regular person walking around. I, I don't know. Do you have trouble with this as well? Like, is this something that you've kind of nailed? Like, how do you? I'm gonna throw this back at you because I'm
No, I'll
looking
take
to
it.
learn. Is this something that you're good at, or is it even something that you consider?
Not well. Again, I almost like the lo-fi aspect of it, and then
Mhm.
the magic is exceptional, and it
Okay.
only works if you think about it the right amount and not too much. Because the if you're running Forgotten Realms or a Forgotten Realms adjacent sort of, if you're running 5e,
Hmm.
the internal logic breaks down pretty quickly as
Yeah,
far
for
as
sure.
like this exists in the world. The the world wouldn't look like this. Oh, okay. You killed the god of magic and replaced it with somebody else, and then she came back and reset everything.
Right.
Boring. But like I don't know. I'm over resetting the timelines for
Yeah.
multiverses, but that's why I fell off of Marvel in the 90s. I kind of rest in the low magic aspect of it all, and then when the magic kicks off, that I'll shine a light on and actually give often it's coming from the players, so I'll give them an opportunity to be like, what does your Eldritch Blast look like, right? Don't just tell
Yeah.
me you're casting the spell. Like what happens when you do that? What do other people see standing next to you?
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, oftentimes I'll punt, give it, pass the ball to the players sometimes.
Yeah. Actually,
Um,
in the campaign that I ran, our warlock, his name was Nobilis. He shot his Eldritch Blast out of his nipples for whatever
oh,
reason. He
all
just
right,
decided that. I'm sure
good
whiskey
choice.
was involved in that decision. It was got very interesting when he got his third Eldritch Blast. He grew an extra nipple because why not?
I love it.
So, but
Uh,
yeah, I mean I like the idea of having people describe their own magic because magic probably looks different in their own head. But that's definitely something I struggle with. Yeah.
Yeah, because like how I see a dirty medieval realm and like prestidigitation's free. Everything can taste
Yeah.
awesome and be clean. Like how
Right. Yeah.
what
Good
are we
point. Why
doing?
does anybody have mud on them?
Yes,
Yeah.
what are we? So yeah, it's all about maintaining the right level of abstraction, and you can drive
Mhm.
yourself mad, in any aspect of the game. But like, where's the poop? Like, well, okay, you zoom out a little bit. That's too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And I guess if I can throw a second answer in there, I have a bad tendency to give players too many magic items, which obviously is kind of a big no-no if you want to try to have any concept of balance. Um, and it does make it very hard. But it's like there's so many cool magic items, and homebrewing is really fun. So that's something I struggle with too. I got to just let people suffer a little bit or struggle. Instead, I'm just like, oh yeah, you got some like cool swords, and they're have like an elemental in them, and you could just summon it. Why not?
Yeah, and I think one, those sound like interrelated problems to me. Like this
Yeah.
world, all this magic exists. Why? Where is it?
Hmm.
Like here it is, and then oh shit, I broke the game. That's a common
Yeah.
that's a common experience, I think, and I think it's a system issue more than it is you know, because there are versions of high fantasy games where like the magic items are the stuff. That
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's where your power is coming from. You are not accelerating in this progression, be it a skill tree or whatever subclass.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason you go down to the dungeon because I want this dope sword because that's the only way I'm going to summon elementals. I'm not going to farm XP until I can get there.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that was what made Final Fantasy VII so cool. Is like the materia system. Like, what a great concept, and obviously probably not novel at the time. Although, maybe I don't know. I was pretty young back then, so yeah.
yeah,
Um,
it's like the first time you experience something is probably the person who invented it,
right.
especially when
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
young. It's like I am not examining that assumption. Um, but yeah, there's so many cool magic items in D&D, and if you give out more than one or two of them, you have to drastically compensate because the world that they're walking around in is not saturated with the magic you'd
Right.
expect it to be.
Exactly.
Um,
Plus, then you have to consider so many different angles when you're planning your combat encounters. It's like, oh well, a bag of tricks can actually really be a problem if they are smart about it, or if they pull lucky things. Suddenly, there's a gorilla on the field, and maybe your characters are like level 3, and that's basically a whole nother player,
yes.
which could really affect the action economy. So,
Yes. I don't know, there's Reddit threads and
oh
YouTube
yeah,
channels devoted to this problem, and I don't take it personally. That's
oh yeah,
my
yeah.
my advice to you. I'm a big fan of like single-use, disposable,
Yes.
powerful magic items. Like I love a good. I've got magical bombs on the drive through. Just
Okay.
like this thing is crazy. You get it once,
Yes.
and with something like that it's almost like it's way less likely the player will ever use it because there's going to be a better opportunity to use it, which is
I
which
was
is
just
a
gonna say
different problem. But
that ended up being like I remember giving my players a an unseen servant, and I gave them a scroll because I was like, this will be cool. I wonder how they'll use it. Apparently, never.
yes,
So,
I forget about yeah.
yep,
But yeah, magic items are the best, and then
yeah,
we regret them.
yeah. It's almost as much fun to make them as to imagine what your players are going to do. So, I end up making like 10 magic items per one I give out just because it's fun to make them. So,
Yes. Yes, you actually had. We didn't talk
yeah,
to. We talked a lot about whiskey. We didn't talk about your about
fair
your
enough.
D&D
Yeah,
side of things. But like you recently had like a crafting magic items from monsters,
yes.
and like God damn, I wish that. I hope that's in the new DMG. I'll leave it
Yeah,
at
I
that.
know.
Like,
It's definitely a system that I wish, like herbalism and alchemy and just all of these crafting things, I wish were better represented in D&D. And I kind of get why they're not, because it does take time, and it's like for one person really. Like, I mean, unless you're going to find materials, but it's like, here's this one player, give me a whole bunch of rolls. Let's ignore the rest of the table while you're
hmm.
doing your herbalism or whatever. But I do wish that it was more of a system. So yeah, you kind of bring up a good point. I didn't really talk that much about Dungeons and Drams. So other than the campaign that I ran, I know, right? The reason I'm here. You get me talking about whiskey, I get
No,
all
it's
excited.
hey, I'm here for it. I went along for the ride.
So Dungeons and Drams was, as I mentioned, a channel I put together so I could play D&D with some friends that all drink whiskey. But then after the campaign ended, or more so when I realized how much effort it was after about a year and a half to just run this campaign every single week, I ended up kind of stopping the campaign. We did do a finale because I didn't think it was right to leave people hanging on just nothing. So we did a finale, but then I was like, I still love D&D and I still want to do something about it. And as I was mentioning earlier, I'm a director of software engineering in my personal life. And so when AI started becoming a thing, I said, hey, there must be some use for this with D&D. Now, one thing I didn't realize was the community doesn't love the concept, and I totally understand why. Like, it's supposed to be a creative medium, and so I've really tried to go with the approach of use AI as a tool to help you do the parts of D&D that you don't love to do. Maybe like a video I actually just put out today was building kingdoms that are like just in your world that maybe you don't really have to care so much about, but it's good to know, like, what do they trade, like what's their what's their structure, like what's their political structure look like, all kinds of things. But like maybe your players never go there, but it'd be good to just have something there in case it's relevant. um and the video that you mentioned was creating magical items out of the monsters that you're killing, and I thought this was a great concept. It's certainly not original, but it was something that if you've homebrewed a monster, you're not going to be able to Google, hey, what kind of stuff can I get off of this monster I created? But if you homebrew the monster and you tell, like, say, ChatGPT about it, it can tell you what you might want to pick off that monster and how you might want to use it. All of this stuff is actually very, very helpful. And if you're in a rush to prep for your session, you might not have the time to figure that out, or maybe you just need to type out something real quick. So that's kind of the approach I've taken. It's not to replace the DM because you can't, but or at least not nearly as well. But honestly, it gets a little weird if you try to. But the idea was make the parts that you don't love to do easier so you can do the parts that you do love to do. So.
Yeah, there's a very understandably, let's say, unnuanced perspective on AI in the tabletop role playing community, and I think part of it is because there was a wave a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago. I don't know when us dummies got to play with it.
Yep. Yep.
Every industry was just like, I wrote 1 million novels last night, right?
Yes.
So,
Right. Yeah.
and like the art in particular, there's a whole
For sure.
DIY industry of artists who you shove their work into a machine so you don't have to pay them anymore.
Right.
I'm super sympathetic to all of that. There's ethical concerns. Whatever, on this channel, we've had this conversation with a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
Um, the concept, like, I'm not afraid of Skynet yet.
Oh, you
I'm
should
not.
be.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
good. Whatever. I'm afraid of the AI that the next AI is
Yes.
making. You're
Right.
a software engineer, actually, so you know more about
Yeah.
the coming
It's
singularity apocalypse than anybody. But
yeah. My professional opinion about that, just like literally professional opinion,
yeah.
is that something like that is possible, but it's going to be a long time from now because the concept of original thought is very difficult to do in a neural network or any sort of AI based thing. But you give it enough non-original thoughts and then you tell it to come up with original concepts, and it kind of can. It's more like taking other people's thoughts, mashing them together, and you do inevitably get a new idea. But also, if you really want to back up a concept, if you want to back up a step, think about like movies, right? Like people always say there's no original ideas for movies or for books. Like nothing's original. There's like what, 9 archetypes or something like that. So AI doesn't have to be original. It just has to put the right pieces together and it will still be something interesting to check out. So to your point about Skynet, something like that could happen, and probably, if we're not careful, probably could like really happen. But I think there's enough people that are aware of it that we'll probably be okay. But I might live to eat those
I
words. We'll see.
don't know if I believe you, but
Yeah,
that's
as some
fine.
android in the future is killing me, they'll play this clip for me.
Yes, I'm always very polite to Alexa and
Of
like,
course, I do
whatever.
too. I say
Please
please
and
and thank
thank
you all
you.
the
I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the friendly humans. Make
totally.
me a pet or something.
I'll be a
Uh,
good slave. Yes.
but like, I mean, I'm sure you exist on the internet. You put up videos. I'm sure you get crappy comments, but like,
Yeah.
there's so much vitriol behind AI. And again, from an understandable place. I
Yeah.
am not saying like I don't want to see the art in every official publication be
Mhm.
AI. But to be like, this is bad and no one can use it
Mhm.
at their table for their home game to like
Right.
world build, brainstorm, like, even if it's not for you, right?
Mhm.
And like, I want robots to do other things than like write my poetry, you know, like
Right.
create my music. Like,
Yeah.
I got a dishwasher. Can we, like, maybe we can work on upgrading that or something? I don't know. But
Exactly.
the idea that like you're bad for talking about how ChatGPT can
Mhm.
help you come up with like cool ideas for like what your players are going to do with monsters because they just asked you a question you don't have an answer for because you didn't even think that they would ever consider asking it, right? So
Yep.
it's just like, here's a tool that you have infinite access to that is never going away and is
Yeah.
only ever going to get better. So like the hard line in the sand, again, like morally, ethically, I am very sympathetic to, but like, we don't have typists anymore, right? Right? Like
Right.
there's like
True. Yeah.
there's
Things
there's a word
evolve.
processing program, and like the guy who repaired typewriters had to get a different job.
Mhm.
where it's happening on a scale now that like there's societal issues maybe we should be talking about, but like at the D&D table,
Right.
like I don't know, man. If it helps you have fun and it makes your life easier,
Yeah.
you not using it isn't helping.
You're
Maybe
not
it makes you
taking as
feel
much of a
good.
stand as you think that you are by not
Yeah.
using it. Yeah, my general opinion, the way that I've kind of justified it to myself as well, especially like making videos and using some of this, I do use artwork. I try not to use too much of it, and I shouldn't say I don't try. I don't use like I don't go grab an image and then say base it off of this. I
Yeah.
purposely try to like craft the prompt. But the way that I've justified it in my head is that I would not be paying somebody for this anyway. I just simply wouldn't put an image there, right? So when I run my games or if I do my home games or whatever, I will happily make images and I'll make it look however I want. I'll do a whole bunch of stuff. And then that's where it ends. Like I'm not selling it. If I was selling it, I would pay an artist. And I think that that's a key. If you are planning on selling something, you should pay. If you are a large enough company where you can afford to have artists on staff, you should pay them. But you're running a home game, make some AI generated art. It's not really a big deal. It's no different than
Right.
going in and photoshopping somebody else's picture that you found and removing the Shutterstock or whatever they.
Because like, yeah,
So,
the commercial interests, and then especially like the sneaky version of it all, like passing it
right,
off as something else that in
that's
and of
different.
itself, like no one's arguing is like remotely good, let
Right,
alone
yeah,
okay.
like what Watsy did recently. Like, you guys have a ton of money, pay artists, right? Like, there's no reason to do AI based stuff.
So
Yeah,
Watsy's too there's too many people up there, and now there's a lot fewer, and I think they got rid of the
right,
wrong
yeah,
ones.
that's true.
But like, yeah, I don't know, man. In your home game, again, like
Yeah,
you don't need to draw these lines. Like either, like I am not producing art. I can barely write my freaking name in a legible
I'm
manner.
totally with you. Yes.
So like, either I'm going to copy paste a
Mhm.
thing that I found on the internet, or like what, like I don't see how different using what a ChatGPT or
Yeah,
Midjourney. What's the
Mid Journey,
Dolly is
yep.
ChatGPT's thing. Yeah,
Dolly as well. Yep, yep.
and I'm sure there's a million other ones out there, but
Yeah.
like there's not I don't see the problem that's worth that's worth talking about, but like
Yeah.
it's the same problem that exists in a lot of other places.
Well, another thing to consider too is if like let's say I am a good artist and I go to a museum and I look at something that looks cool or even just see something on TV and I go home and I paint my version of it, how's that any different? Like really? I mean, other than the fact that I had to put manual effort into it for sure. But if I go onto my computer and I type, make an ogre that is carrying a great axe because that's cooler than a club or something like that, like that has probably never been made before, but I'm sure that it's going out somewhere and finding and referencing what an ogre looks like and what a great axe looks like. And somebody took those pictures or drew that picture. So yeah, I mean, all art is going to be based off something anyway. So it's a gray area for sure. And I'm not trying to justify it too much. And I still stand by the whole like if you're getting paid for it, you should pay somebody else to do the art. But other than that, yeah. All right. Roll a dice.
Roll dice.
Because I feel like I could talk about this for a while.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I have for an hour at a time, so
right.
it's an interesting thing, and it's not going away. That's like kind of
No.
where I always come back from. Like starting point,
Mm.
it's here.
I totally agree with you there. Like being in technology, the amount of times I have seen things that I vehemently disagree with, like one of the biggest ones is AWS. So like Amazon Web Services.
Uh,
The idea of a whole bunch of companies giving everything that they have over to Amazon to host on their servers because it's cheaper and because like they don't have to pay to have their own data centers. Like I get monetarily why it makes sense, but suddenly Amazon has everything that makes you a company. And sure, maybe there's all kind of legality in there, but who's saying that people are doing the right thing? Like, but I've stood against that personally and I have regretted doing so. Like I haven't lost a job or anything like that, but I've definitely I'm not like the choice guy if we need to implement something in AWS. And people are like, oh, Bill doesn't really like that. Stick him on the other stuff. So, all right. Anyway,
you
that's
roll a d20, and
all right.
yeah, I mean, you want to talk about like other scarier things happening.
12.
12. How deadly do you like your game?
Ooh, I wish I wanted to make it more deadly. Now, funny thing is, I'm actually working on a very deadly game right now, and I can't wait to tell you about it. But the campaign that I ran, I was more interested in progressing the story than killing the players. Although I did almost kill somebody in the third episode. And actually I kind of did, but it was with a homebrewed monster. So I kind of left it up to chance. Like it was a thing I called a essentially it was like a blight, but it was made of poison ivy. And
Mm.
So I used this monster. I beefed it up a little bit more than what I should have, and then it just killed the guy. And so the rest of the party ended up killing it off, and the whole thing was over. But he was like, "I'm dead already." Like I made this whole character. He was kind of like upset about it. I said, "You know what? To be fair, he was a little tougher than he should have been. Roll a d20. If you get a 10 or above, you magically spring back to life with a hit point, and this will be the only time it happens." And
Mm.
he rolled like an 11.
Mm.
I was very happy because I would have been sad if his character died. But I want to run a really deadly game, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now. It's this whole castle based thing in ice, and I'm hoping to put it on the channel sometime soon. I've been working on it for like 4 months though. Like I've been really spending a lot of time on this thing, and I want that, but it depends on the kind of game. If it's more about the story, I try to make it not deadly, but like challenging. Um, I rather have like ways for them to fail other than dying.
Mm.
So
Good answer.
yeah,
Yeah, like consequences doesn't have to
exactly.
be dropping to zero.
Yeah, actually, in the campaign that I ran, so I called it the Lands of Domitium because I keep referring it to as the campaign, right? So the Lands of Domitium, it was basically a whole bunch of it was a play on words of the Latin word like demi, and then I don't know, somehow the word like divided up of being like split Earth, right?
Mm.
And so it was a whole bunch of like shattered, island kind of things. And there was a situation where they had to fight a dragon as well as stop a druid from performing a ritual to do a thing and bring back like this snake god. And I was like, okay, well, they're probably going to focus on the dragon, but if they go deal with him, the bad snake god won't come back right now. But they kind of ignored him, and it was like a whole thing. It was actually a really cool scene. I liked it a lot in the campaign. But that was how they failed because they concentrated on the wrong thing. The dragon was literally chained up. Like they didn't have to deal with it at all. They could have just walked past it and dealt with the druid. But they were like, no, it's a dragon, fight it.
Get
I
him.
probably would have done the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I love putting something that's like I always have a dragon. Level 1, there's an adult dragon around.
Yeah,
It's usually on the encounter table. You roll bad, you're gonna get him, and then like he's
that's
just gonna
cool.
steal your lunch money, and you're gonna hate him, and then you're gonna go back in 7 levels.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I had my players had found an airship and they were flying past this volcano that we knew had an ancient red dragon that lived in it. And I had made it very clear. Actually, it's if you ever see the campaign, it's like the waiting screen is this red dragon. And I had a situation where I did just like I said earlier with the dungeon dudes, where you roll the d6s, and it was 4 players. One of them was out that night, and right at the end, I had the 3 players that were left roll their d6s. All 3 of them rolled a 1,
mm,
and so I said, when we come back next week, I'm gonna have the other player roll it. If he rolls a 1, that ancient dragon's coming out of that volcano and coming after your ship. I think he rolled like a 4 or something, inconsequential. I was like, you lucky. But four ones, that has to have a consequence. So like a bad one.
and that's the best because they think about that all week. They're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, for
you better
sure.
roll good, better roll good next Wednesday, man.
Right.
Okay, give me another d20, please.
Sure. Yeah. I love this. That was a 1 again.
Well, funny
Oh,
enough, you roll 2 1 or you
I
roll
rolled two
doubles of
ones. That's,
anything, but especially ones lightning round.
oh, nice.
Um, doesn't have to be fast. You're welcome to
All right,
vamp
let's
as
do
much
it.
as you like. But number one, hard hitting questions here. Do you fudge?
Do I fudge? The pause is mostly just to think if I've ever have. I think just that one time that the dude died, I kind of made stuff up. I don't fudge the rolls because I play on a VTT and everybody can just see them.
You're only up, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fudging. That's adapting.
Yeah.
Um,
Would I
okay.
fudge? Maybe. I
It,
could definitely see situations where I would probably fudge. Yeah.
it's interesting to be like, have I ever? Because like I think most
Yeah.
people the answer would be yes, even if they don't anymore.
Yes, absolutely. I have fiddled with hit points though. Uh
Oh
m-
God, every night.
Mostly to make somebody look really cool. Like there's no sense in making a end of a turn end with like 1 hit point for the monster if it could have been cooler. So
I so strongly agree with you. However, my brother-in-law will, it's like a thing that he will leave a monster with 1 HP.
okay.
It's what for like, and like we've been playing together for years now.
Mhm.
So like once in a while I'll give it to him, but like for the most part, I'd be like, it's got 1 hit point left.
Yeah. Like if my wizard's throwing like a firebolt at it and it has 1 hit point, like nah, maybe I'll keep it at 1 and let the next person finish it off. But if you're like a fighter, you took like 5 turns or whatever, you spent your second not second win. What's the action the
Action surge.
action surge? Thank you. Um and then you end up with 1 hit point. No, I'm gonna let you kill it. So
What is your favorite die size? And not like we were talking about old blue, your
Mhm.
your favorite D20, but
Right,
like
right. All
what's
blue. Yeah.
like increment D4, D68. What's your
Oh,
favorite?
okay. I think it's got to be the D20. Just it's so iconic. Like I can't think of a better way to represent the game, or a more fun die to ride. Wow, that was backwards. A more fun die to roll. Yes.
Classic. Yeah, I just like look, I was like, is it on my shirt? Because like 50-50 chance. There's a D20 on my shirt. Maybe asked and answered, but do you run publish or homebrew?
Homebrew. Yeah. I've actually never run a published module. I immediately started with homebrew. Yeah, that for me that's where the game is the most fun. So I read
Uh,
I read through Minds of Phandelver and I was like, this is cool, but now I understand a little bit better how to make a thing and let me go do homebrew.
do you use encumbrance?
No, no, it's too much to ask people to keep track of that, and I don't want to keep track of it. So if there's something like egregious, if they tried to be like, oh, I'm gonna carry the Umber Hulk, like, no, you're not. So, but other than that, nah, I don't bother.
I just did like my first little foray into making videos on the new PHB and then the carrying capacity rules. It's like, but even before they give you the recipe now, the 15 times your strength or whatever, it's
Right.
like you usually don't have to do this.
They know.
Don't make us. Like,
I I
that,
swear there's so many rules that they keep around just to appease people who have played since like first or second edition, or advanced D&D, whatever, just to make them happy, which is fine, because everything's use it if you want. But I swear, I think that they want to get rid of encumbrance, but it would give people an excuse to be like, I carry 15 shields. So
exactly, like this is here. The only reason you're ever going to do this math is because someone's abusing the system.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Play nice. Don't make
Yeah.
it. Don't make
If you
me.
want to call somebody out, this is how you can do it
Yes.
legitimately. Yes.
What is your favorite class?
Wizard.
Oh, good answer. Favorite species, lineage, ancestry, race?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I that's a really good question. I got to think about that for a sec. I tend to play. I mean, I'm a DM, so I haven't played very much. I just run it, right. Um,
Monster. My favorite race is monster.
yeah, right, exactly.
That's why I'm a DM.
I would say hmm. I don't want to say human, but I feel like most of what I've played are humans. And it's either going to be a human or an elf, like kind of classic, but oh, you know what? No, I take it back completely. Uh Dragonborn.
Hmm.
Yeah, Dragonborn for sure. Only because I have a good voice for it. So it's like
That's
yeah, it kind of sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger a little bit, but it's just a little bit raspy. It's good.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with human. I like being like, especially when like, it's not the first campaign. Everyone's got random things from like splat books, like it's a
Yep.
hobgoblin and a sentient ooze, and like it's just like I'm just some dude who's pretty confused about what's going on. I'm just the
How did I
guy.
get here? Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Sentient ooze. That could be fun.
Yeah, just contrast. Roll for stats, standard array, or point by.
Standard array.
Good answer. Um,
Point by always felt like too much work. Like I'd rather just, no.
I always actually I don't know if this still holds true, but I'm pretty sure like you can get to standard array from point by. So if you're
Yeah.
good to do point by, I always tell people start with standard array
Mhm.
instead of eights. Start with the standard array and then like subtract a little, and it just goes so much faster. It's like
Yep.
Tinker versus starting from scratch. Do you allow flying characters at your table?
I wouldn't disallow it, but I have never given out a flying thing other than a potion. Only because it does make dungeon creation so much harder.
It's like, oh, now we have a Z axis.
Right, exactly, yeah. And it's like I'm pretty lenient with like people wanting to climb things. Like I'm like, yeah, you can climb that sheer face that has no handholds. Why not? Give me a athletics roll. But I'd rather them not be like, oh, I just skip everything and like hover over all of the traps in the floor and whatever else. So but then again, if I really allowed it, I bet I would get kind of creative of how to ruin it for them. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try it next time I play.
It's not as big of a once you start to think about how to solve it, it's not as big of a problem.
Okay.
As like you fear the first time it was like, oh this guy's got wings. Oh my god. Because well, if it's especially if it's like, all right, 20% of the party doesn't have to worry about this. What do you get? Still the problem.
That's true. Yeah.
Uh,
That's true. Because like even with a broom, it's not like everybody's getting on it, or even a carpet. Chances are you're not going to get everybody on it. So
and dispel magic when you're 1,000 feet
yeah.
in the air. Whoa. Now what, guys?
Anti-magic field. All of that. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be that bad.
What is your preferred, your favorite third party tool supplement?
Ooh, good. All right. So I'm gonna go with tool, only because I love Incarnate for
Mm,
map making. I've spent a lot of hours in it, and it's just I find that even though like I of course like with anything you wish it had certain things that it doesn't have, but I have found that it does everything I want to at least a good degree, if not a great degree. So I really like Incarnate.
Harnett is dope.
Map making software. Sorry. Yeah.
I thank you. I so often
No, it's
fall into
fine.
just
You
like
shook your head like you
assuming
understood, and then
everybody
I just kind of
is
went. But yeah, you're totally right. Like other people are watching this. I should probably explain what it is. Yeah, it's a map making tool. It's actually very inexpensive if it's a thing that you're into. I think it's like a one time fee of I want to say it's like $50, but
and there's like a
for
basic there's like a free
there's a free version too. Yeah, for sure.
step. Yeah, there's you can do a lot with the free version, but like yeah, if you like it, you're gonna want the assets.
Yeah, I ran my first game on the free one actually, and it didn't really hold me back at all. It was you make your landmass, you put some cities and stuff. It was a little bit less awesome with the free version for making a dungeon, but for making like a world map and stuff or a region map, that was really useful on the free version. Check it out if it's a thing you're into.
Yeah,
You'll
I've
probably end up
used it a
spending money on
lot
it.
for like world map, like in-game artifacts because it's
Mhm.
like you pick one set of assets because they have like
It's
hand
like fantasy
drawn.
battlegrounds and all the
It's been
yeah
a minute, but yeah. You
yeah
can get like a real like fantasy map, but you can also get like a real like this looks like someone drew it, right? And then
oh
like
yeah
slap it into something else, put like a
oh
weird
yeah
filter,
yeah
tea stain on it or something. It's like, here's the map. Is it right? I don't know.
yeah
This is not to
yeah.
scale. Here you go.
It's cool what some people do on that. Like the subreddit for it is very impressive. I'm
Yes.
in the Discord as well, and like it's funny because you get all kinds of people, and it's a lot of people like asking for advice. And I look at it, I'm like, that's like the first map I drew. I have some advice for you. So it's fun. I really like that software.
Yeah, good stuff. Favorite non D&D game.
Oh, huh. Like anything. I mean, because it's probably gonna be a video game.
I'll take anything. I'll take a TTRPG if you got one, and I'll take
hmm.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Call of Cthulhu is pretty cool. I haven't played it very much though. I've played it like twice, and it was a little while ago. I haven't explored much outside of D&D, if I'm being honest.
No
But
judgments.
I wanted to die, so I played Call of Cthulhu. So like it was one of those times to our earlier conversation where I was feeling like everything was a little too easy, and a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you want to play Call of Cthulhu?" I'm like, "Absolutely, let's try it out." I kind of want to try Daggerheart. I know that it just came out, so I might give that a shot. But other than that, I usually just stick with D&D. But I
Yeah,
don't
my
know.
buddy GM Jim from Wizards and Wordsleekers has been like running his home game with it for a few months. Like the
Yeah.
beta was pretty far along, but like yeah, it just the day we're talking, I think it came out like 2 days ago.
Mhm.
It is in the world. So Daggerheart's I don't think it's going to kill D&D, but
Yeah, no, I
it's
don't think so either. But it's good to have another system, and I mean, Critical Role certainly has a backing for anything that they wanted to try. So hopefully it
well,
does well. I mean,
yeah,
I listened to the episodes that they put out where they used Daggerheart. It sounded interesting enough. Um, so yeah, I'll probably give it a shot.
it's cool. I'm a big advocate for like trying other games,
Mhm.
steal what you like, leave what you don't.
Yeah, and the fact that I haven't had a whole lot of experience outside of D&D is mostly because I know myself, and I will be like that. I will want to play all of them, and
That's yeah.
I Yeah, like I definitely get way into stuff. Clearly, like that's I don't think you'll find a YouTuber who doesn't obsess about whatever they've decided to make a channel about. So yeah, I know myself too well. I'll want to play everything and I'll have shelves and shelves like most of the people
Hi.
watching this. And yes,
Whoops.
exactly. Yeah.
I feel seen.
Yeah. This
Um,
is my current obsession.
yeah, one thing at a time. This is why I
Right.
never got into minis because it's like I would like that too much. Can't do that.
Exactly.
Oh man. Okay, good good times,
Yeah,
great oldies, good freewheeling convo. Tell the folks at home where they can find you and what's next? What's next on Dungeons and Drams? What's
sure.
what's on the agenda?
Yeah, so Dungeons and Drams, you can find us on YouTube. I don't post a whole lot to the other social medias, just it's too much to do, but I like YouTube. So you can visit there for anything AI assisted D&D or DMing, anything like that. So the next thing that I'm really looking forward to, I kind of alluded to it earlier, is this new little mini campaign setting I'm doing. It's going to be probably like a 5-part series,
Hmm.
and I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be very deadly. And the whole idea is I'm going to have 15 pre-made characters for my 5 players to use. And if they can get to the end of this mini campaign, that will be an impressive thing. And so it's a lot of death. It's going to be fun. Fun for me
Nice.
anyway.
Nice. No, there's fun there. As long as everyone's on the same page, as long as you've got
Yes,
buy-in, like, hey, this is
definitely.
this is a meat grinder funhouse sort of situation.
Mhm.
I tell people that all the time anyway, just to put the fear in them to start. Like, make sure you got a backup character. Like, you're never gonna die, but I need you to sweat.
Exactly. I haven't decided whether I'm going to have all the players be level 3 or level 5. But I don't want them to be high because I want them to like I don't want to try to kill off somebody with a trap that's going to do 200 points of damage.
Yeah.
That's silly. Or in this case it would be silly. But they'll be seeing like a white dragon almost immediately. And it will be tough. So, yeah. I'm very
Awesome.
excited about that.
Love it. Looking forward to that. That's my speed.
Yeah. Nice. Actually, well, so to that point, so I'm making this with the intent that it will be like a reusable thing as well. And
Hmm.
I am hoping to invite some of the other D&D creators after I've play tested it a little bit to come and be like, come on in and see, you guys are good at D&D. Let's see if you can get through this thing. There's going to be like mystery to it, as well as like, if you want to, there's stuff to discover, or you could just barge through the doors of this castle and find your way to the, wherever you need to go.
And
Um,
it's kind of a loss. I was just talking to my buddy about this. Like, I've only been doing this for like 10 years now. Right. Also a baby, and that's our industry is like, well, I didn't do this in 1983, so I guess
right.
I guess I just started. But the like there were like some of the adventures in the Yawning Portal
Mhm.
were this like tournament play, right?
Yep.
Like at a convention, you only got 3-4 hours, you're playing for the high score. It goes against a lot of the ethos of like what people think or expect from like actual play shows or something, but
Mhm.
like the more ways to play, the better, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. And like it's a cool thing that you don't like no one's doing that much anymore. Or if they
Yeah.
are, I don't know about it.
Well, if you don't get attached to the characters, then you might not come back to watch. So that's also why I think I'm going to keep this somewhat short. So it's more that you're going to like the player and maybe not so necessarily the character.
Hey, live streamers, give me something punchy.
Yeah,
Because like
yeah, it's something
there's a
different. Yeah, I
73-hour episodes into a thing, it's harder to onboard.
totally agree. And I'm trying to be influenced a lot by like the Dungeon of the Mad Mage,
Ah,
like that kind of stuff. So this will be I'm hopefully it comes out as good as I have in my head, but we'll see.
awesome, awesome. Looking
Ironically, when I make my own campaigns, I try to use AI very little. So, but mostly because I'm making it for like a campaign that I want to run on the channel. So I want it to be like my own creativity, but I still use some of the tools to do the things that suck, like balancing a like if I here's a homebrew monster, here's all the stuff I want it to do. Tell me what CR it is, or tell me how many hit points it should have. Like that's kind of how I use it. But it all depends on how much time I have.
and that's the thing to decide. One, it's spicy that you're like, oh, I want to do it myself. Like
I
there's
know,
the
I know.
fun. I was going to ask you about prompting the fun out of a thing, or like what I
Yeah.
don't even know the terminology, but like go like having it do the fun stuff for you. Like at what point
Yes.
do you stop? But like the also like here's a tool that like if you figure out how to use it, can do stuff, can do anything, and it's probably better at the math stuff than the
Yeah, for sure.
creative thematic stuff. So like, yeah,
Yeah, actually, it's
give me an
funny. I was
AI
thinking
encounter builder. Let's go.
that would be good, actually. What is it? Cobalt Fight Club.
Ooh,
I used to use
exactly.
that all the time. I actually started using AI because I wanted to plan out an encounter, and I said, here are my 4 characters. This is their stats. Like I typed out the whole thing, and I said, this is what I want them to fight against. Is this a fair encounter? That was one of the first Chat GPT things I ever did.
Hmm.
And then it was like, well, you should consider adding more stuff, and then I did, and everything went better. But like that's how I kind of came to this, like, oh, this is a cool tool. But actually, I was thinking about this video earlier today, and I did want to warn people, if they do decide to use AI in any capacity, be very careful, because it's very easy to go to the point where it's like you don't. It'd be like taking like learning something but having all of the answers in front of you, like back in school where you had all the answers in the back of the book for your math test. Like,
Hmm.
how tempting was it to just go look at the answers instead of trying to use your brain, right? So if you have AI available, either decide whether you want to use it or don't use it, and at which point you want to use it. Like, it's easy to become tempted to just use AI and make something that's not wholly your own, that you're not as proud of.
This is the reason I turn off my GPS some of the time, because it's like, okay, I've
Yeah,
driven
I
here
could
three
see that.
times and I don't know how to get here
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not learning. The
Yep.
computer's doing this for me. Like, I don't even know the name of this bridge, and I just
Yep.
paid a toll. Like, get me. So yeah, yeah, that's
That's a
insightful.
really good. I like that. That's a good analogy.
And we're not like this is early '90s GPS. This is the
Tarman or
this
whatever they
is
were.
well, whatever. But this is the
Yeah.
Office episode where Michael Scott's driving into the lake because it says make a left and he just listens. Like, ChatGPT is a very powerful tool that hallucinates language. And
Yeah.
like I don't know, I forget where I read that, but like
That's
it's
interesting.
just it knows what words are probably coming next.
Hmm.
And it's dreaming. So
That's interesting.
for you not for you to like hand in something and be like,
Hmm.
here's the thing. It's like, well, you're bad at this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
uh yeah, it still needs, I don't know, human intervention and input.
Yeah, and I think it should. Like, if as soon as it doesn't, then we are kind of getting near that Skynet thing. Or, maybe we get to a point where humans don't have to work and we all get lazy, and or lazier. And I don't know that I like that either. So,
Well, that's always my AI soapbox speech is like, the robots are coming for my job.
yep.
Should be good news. That's the dream of the 1950s, right? That's the
Yeah,
Jetsons. But it's like the robots are going to do my job, and therefore I'm going to starve to death. It's like, okay, maybe we need
exactly.
to talk about how we allocate resources, not necessarily
Yeah.
what this piece of software is up to.
If that's the way things are going, there's absolutely going to be a gap of some amount of years, probably decades, where there's all the jobs being done, but people don't know what to do with themselves, and it's not going to hit that balance for a while, I bet.
Play D&D, baby.
You're right.
Let's go.
Excellent. Well,
All right, yeah, great stuff. I'm looking forward to the next half of our interaction here.
oh,
For
that's
those
right.
of
There's a
you,
second half. Awesome.
yeah, well, we're
I
not done.
totally
We're
forgot.
just
I thought that we were doing a little sign off, and yeah, no, you and I we talk a lot, or me.
yeah. I did warn you. I asked you if there was a hard out because
Not at all. No.
this show can go long.
Yeah, no,
All
I'm
right.
I'm totally. I thought that you were trying to, like, I almost said, like, thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're saying goodbye to the people at home. Bye, people at home. We'll see you
Oh,
next
okay.
time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you next time. Be kind,
See
have
ya.
fun. Bye.